want to talk to you today about three things: golf, skiing, and cancer. Now, how many of you, raise your hand if you have played golf or tried to play? Okay, quite a few. Now, I started playing golf. My dad took me out on the golf course when I was 7 years old. I could have been a young Tiger Woods. I was dragged out there, and my dad thought it was the greatest thing on earth. And you know what? I have golfed ever since then, and I, to this day, absolutely suck. I am a horrible golfer. And you know, and I've tried to get better at it, and I've worked at it, and I've gone out and spent my time, but realistically, to be a really good golfer, you have to golf a lot. You really have to go for it. I mean, weekly during the summer, take trips somewhere warm and golf. You really, at least from my point of view, you have to do that. And I have some friends that have golfed until they were in their 80s, and they're still not very good. It's a tough game. And so I was looking for ways to make golf more interesting for me. Like drinking is a good thing to make golfing more interesting. Or talking to somebody, or, you know, there's all kinds of things. But one time I came up with an idea, and I was at a bachelor party for a good friend of mine, and they decided to have it on a golf course. It was actually at Mount Dell. And it was raining. It was just absurdly raining. It wasn't even close to a sprinkle. It was not a rain that we normally have around here. It was just that total downpour. And there were puddles of water everywhere. You could barely, people were tipping their golf carts over because they would hydroplane. And they were drinking too. But at one point, I hit my ball into some really deep brush. I mean, super thick. It was brambles and sagebrush and oak brush, and it was just this super dense thing with no path into it. But I was in complete rain gear. I had the rain hat, and you know, I was wearing glasses, and I had all this stuff on. And I thought, you know what? I am really sick of losing balls. This was about the 12th ball I'd lost that day, and I was just done with it. So I thought, you know what? I am going to go get that ball, damn it. Because the weather's not any good, and there's nobody out here. It's not like I'm going to hold anybody up. So I decide to plow into that area, and I dive in, and I don't care. There's branches scratching my face, and I'm digging through, and I'm slogging through. And I'm closing my eyes so that I don't scratch my eyeballs, and I look down, and everywhere I look are golf balls. Hundreds of golf balls. And not just those old, worn-out golf balls, but like the brand-new $5 kind of golf balls. So I start picking them up, like, wow, this is amazing. So I open up my raincoat like this, like a hammock, and I start just stuffing balls and stuffing balls. And I literally have 30 or 40 or 50 golf balls, and I come walking out, and I'm so proud of myself, and I walk that out onto the fairway, and all my buddies are there, and I get, hey guys, look at this, and then I drop them down, and they just are amazed, and they're thinking, where did you get those? How did you find all those balls? You were only in there for about 2 minutes. And I thought about it afterwards, and I thought, you know, why were all those golf balls in there and nobody went to get them? Well, it was because it was a pain in the ass to go in there, right? I mean, I purposely went to the thickest, darkest, nastiest part of that woods, and that's where all the balls were, because nobody wanted to go in there. And so afterwards I realized that I had been rewarded because I took the path of greatest resistance. Right? I took the hardest way in. Another time I found that to be the case was skiing. Now, raise your hand if you ski. Got a lot of skiers. Raise your hand if you skied in Cier Valley. Okay, now raise your hand if you know where Oompa Loompa Land is. Okay, still got good numbers. So there's this place, I don't tell anybody about this, although probably some of you already know about this. But when you go to Oompa Loompa Land, the first part of it is cool because it's kind of windy and it's tough, and there's a little bit of a resistance to get in there because you have to wind around. If a lot of people have been skiing, it's got these ruts and you kind of have to go around trees. And then you go in there and it opens up. And on a powder day, there's nice wide open powder fields. So one day I was there and I came through and all this nice powder is waiting for me. And I get there and it just been skied out. Oh, I thought I got up here early enough. And I look and it's just all the good trails are gone. I thought, oh, this is bad. So I look over to the left and there's this thick group of pines. I mean, just super thick, the small and the tall, and just like a wall of pines on the left-hand side. I thought, see any tracks over there. So I decide to ski over there, and I get in there, and it is just dense. I mean, again, I'm getting branches in my face, I'm scratching my face, I'm breaking through branches, I'm thinking, this is probably not good for nature, but I gotta get through here. And so I'm in tree wells, and I'm coming out of tree wells, and I go through there, and I probably go in 50 yards, and all of a sudden I hit this spot. And it's 20 feet wide, perfectly straight, untouched, all the way down to the next run. I think, wow, look at this. And I get in there, and I'm skiing, and I'm having that perfect float, and I'm flying, and I'm just feeling the groove. And I go through, and the snow is hitting my face. And it's just absolutely wonderful. And I get to the bottom, and I have this huge, huge smile on my face, and I've been yipping and yelping on the way down. And I look back at that, and I think, why didn't I know that was there? How come I've never found that before? And then I realized I had been rewarded for taking the path of greatest resistance. Now, a friend of mine passed away recently. Some of you probably know her. In fact, I know a couple of you know her. Her name is Laura Murphy. And Laura had gone into the doctors, and she was told that she had stage 4 ovarian cancer. And the doctor said to her, put your affairs in order. This is very serious, and you need to kind of wrap things up. Now, Laura didn't like that diagnosis, obviously. None of us would like that. And so she went and found another doctor at Huntsman Cancer Institute who told her, you know what? Maybe there's some things we can do. Laura eventually did pass away. But in that time, as she fought her cancer, she got more and more time that she didn't expect. She was able to spend time with her daughters, her young daughters, and see them grow up from being young teenagers to going off to college. And she had been told, basically she had a couple months, and she went and took every kind of therapy she could. She would go to Washington, D.C. every 2 to 3 weeks and get a special treatment, and then she tried to get other treatments, and they were horrible, and they were painful, and they were expensive, and it took huge chunks of time out of her life, but she kept fighting. And I asked her about it once, and I said, you know, what does it feel like to be a survivor? She said, Andy, please don't call me a survivor. None of us are survivors. We always, all of us will die someday. So calling me a survivor, I can't go there. And I said, well, what do you prefer to be called? And she said, I'd prefer to be called a warrior, because every day I have to fight. Every day I have to fight and go against the path of greatest resistance. And so she did that, like I said, for 7 years. And she was rewarded with being able to spend that 7 years with her husband, her friends, her 2 daughters. And she finally passed away, and there was a huge group of people there. And it was at St. Mary's at the Catholic Church. But what I loved seeing there in this packed funeral were all these people who weren't Catholic, who weren't necessarily comfortable in that setting, but they were all comfortable because Laura was there. And Laura's spirit and her warrior spirit brought everyone together. And I just wanted to salute her today. And this is an after-dinner toast. So if you could all raise your hand, raise your glass, raise your coffee mug, or just your fist, and toast Laura Murphy, a great warrior who always took the path of greatest resistance. Here's to Laura.
Cheers.